I have learned that it takes a village to say goodbye. Hospice care means to me that we are not going to be alone at any time of life, especially when we're very vulnerable, potentially very lonely. And that's at the end of life when things are changing so much.
Hospice has always been something that's very near and dear to my heart. I moved to Cranbrook over 30 years ago and just really surprised that there was no hospice home anywhere even close to Cranbrook. I actually have a journal entry that I did, well, it's over 20 years ago, and it said, "I will build a hospice home for Cranbrook." So the opportunity arose this year, and there's no time like the present.
Currently, we have 2 designated rooms in the East Kootenay Regional Hospital. My first wife, passed away in one of those 2 rooms in 1985. 40 years have passed, and nothing has changed that enhances the end-of-life journey. And my experience is that the best facility that I have seen in that 40 years to allow people the dignity of the dying process is a hospice house. And we have put together an amazing steering committee headed up by Greg Sternig. Involves an amazing group of people who are dedicated to making this happen. We're working actively with government to make sure this happens, but it needs to happen for the East Kootenays. We cannot allow another 40 years to go by and still have 2 facilities designated but not dedicated to hospice.
Hospice means accompanying the person, and it's the end of life. A lot of it is just common sense with the training that we have as well, and then just assisting wherever we can. It means like helping families, helping the person that's on this journey. I had a young mother who, she was 43, and she was going to pass away through MAID, and she asked me what I'm going to be able to do, what I'm going to be able to contribute to this. I said, give me a couple of days. I came back and I said, if anything, I said, look at me as a little bit of silver lining to the cloud that's here. And she said, that was wonderful. Like,
Grandpa was very funny. Me and him spent a lot of time together in his last few years. We did a lot of puzzles together. We would go for ice cream, go to Kimberley for the day, or go to Fort Steele and get fireballs.
My grandpa was a very giving, kind person. He was always volunteering his time and being willing to help people. And he was just happy and nice all the time. Some of my favorite memories with my grandpa were we would go to the Bucks games all the time. Every Bucks game we would go to. And puzzles. We did a lot of puzzles together.
I think Grandpa would be proud that I'm hoping towards getting a hospice home. And I think he'd be proud of all the work my mom has done to get this moving forward.
I think it really came to head a year ago when my dad got ill suddenly. He was 96, but he was a healthy, vibrant person. He was still curling 3 times a week. This was in February. Beginning of March, he got sick and he died in hospital at the end of May last year. So the experience was not good. He had to be in hospital. We wanted to get him home, and the resources weren't there to make that happen. So he spent his final days on the 3rd floor at the East Kootenay Regional Hospital, and he moved rooms 4 times. And he did not get to die in the palliative care room at the hospital. He ended up being in basically a closet space, and with our family crowded in, and it was not ideal by any means. And I want to helped fix that so families don't need to experience what we did.
I remember every time we'd get off the elevators and walk down the hall to his room, there's beds in the hall, people wandering that didn't have a room. And it just always felt very, like you never got that time, that special time to be with him.
Spending time with my grandpa in the hospital was difficult. It was hard to keep emotions positive, and you could tell that he was trying to always be positive, but you could definitely see he was struggling a lot.
In the last day of Grandpa's life, we were in a cramped up room, and the guy beside us had dementia, and he was really struggling, and so we never really got that final time to spend with him in peace, where he probably would rather be, just in more of a peaceful environment.
I wish it could have been different with my grandpa before he passed, in ways that it was more stable. We weren't moving rooms every time, and every time we went to the hospital, we weren't 100% sure if he was in the room that he was in the day before. If it was more peaceful and more positive, and having familiar faces coming in the room, like nurses and doctors that tended to switch every day. I think bringing a hospice home to the East Kootenays will be really important because it will allow people's loved ones to say goodbye on a more positive note.
About a month after my dad passed, my aunt, his sister, the only living relative of that generation of Hongs, found out she had a brain tumor. She was in Edmonton, and she was put in the Pilgrim's Hospice Home right away, and I went up to visit her, and the contrast between being in a hospital and being in a hospice home at end of life is night and day. I feel like my dad was not at peace, and our family was not at peace the way we had to say goodbye. But my auntie being in a hospice home and in this beautiful room with beautiful staff, she was at peace, and it made it easier to say goodbye.
I also had an experience in Vernon with my father passing away at the North Okanagan Hospice House in November of 2010. And it was totally different. My wife and dog and myself were in a beautiful room with big windows, nice colorful surroundings, a garden to look out at that was being transformed from a summer rose garden into a winter light show. And as soon as you walked into the hospice house in Vernon, you were greeted by the smell of fresh baked cookies. The staff were amazing. There was bright. There was nobody in the hallways. The hallways were wide. It felt like a home away from home, and in fact, it really was.
A full life usually means dying at home or dying in a place where they can be comfortable, where they can actually smell stuff, hear stuff. That's not disinfectants. That's not about tests and all that stuff. Acute care is brilliant for stuff like surgery and returning you to health and strength. But when those options aren't good options, you need to be where you need to be. In a hospice, there'd be that peace and tranquility of people that get it, your family with you at your bedside, saying goodbye, staying in the moment with you, and their needs being met as well. So it becomes a much more wholesome experience.
It is so, unfortunately, very lacking in most communities, not just Cranbrook Kimberley or the East Kootenays. But it's something that I think is just so badly needed. I just can't emphasize. If I could scream from the rooftops, I would do that.